Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today, our friend Ryan sends this question. If you had to fight to the death with a man without experience, but you can only have 2 years of jiu-jitsu experience or 2 years of boxing, what are you choosing and why? Also, what would be the best martial art for this experience? If I had to fight someone to the death with only 2 years of experience in either jiu-jitsu or boxing and nothing else, if I had to kill a man, jiu-jitsu would be a much easier, more efficient way to do it. Now, I hope you're not in this situation asking for a friend. But yeah, man, it's a whole lot easier to kill somebody by strangling them to death than it is by punching them to death. Especially an untrained person. If you have 2 years of good jiu-jitsu experience, training consistently throughout 2 years, you'll be able to strangle the average person to death quite handily. With 2 years of boxing experience, you can definitely outbox the average person. You'd definitely be dangerous to them, but it's a pretty inefficient way to kill people by punching them repeatedly. You can totally do it, yeah, but it's a much slower process. You're more likely to injure your hands. You're going to leave a lot of marks. Man, I feel like I'm giving advice to a serial killer here. If you strangle somebody, it doesn't leave marks on them, like bludgeoning them to death with your bare hands. Ugh, I just felt a dark and creepy feeling come over me. Yeah. All right, disregard that information. Remember, this is for science, my friends, for science. Next question. Today, our friend Satoshi says, has anybody ever went to your gym and challenged you? Coach, if yes, then how did it go? Yes. I would say, like as a traditional Dojo-storm type of challenge, that's happened maybe once. This guy with a chip on his shoulder came in and he wanted to grapple. He was a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he had heard that there was this guy who had a lower rank than him who was teaching Jiu-Jitsu. And so he wanted to put me in my place, and he comes over, not realizing that he is a guy who had about 3 years of grappling experience, challenging a guy who had, at the time, about 15 years of grappling experience. And so I promptly caught him in a triangle choke, and he tapped out and got furious and stormed out of the gym. And I never heard from him again. So that was the only like Dojo-storm type of, I'm challenging your authority type of challenge that I've had at my gym. Now, on the other hand, students who have challenged me, that's a pretty common thing. Anytime I spar, I shouldn't say anytime, often when I've sparred with my students, they try to win, as they should. That's a different kind of challenge. It's a much more intense challenge, because these are guys who know what I'm capable of. See, this purple belt who came in, he's looking at ranks, has no idea what I'm capable of, has no idea what my experience was, and he was shocked and disappointed to learn the truth. But my own students, the ones who trained with me for years, the ones who know my game, those are the ones who really challenge me in the best possible way. Next. Our next question comes from Owen Duffy. He says, Ramsey, can you please make a video about Vaseline used in combat sports? I understand it helps with cuts, but I would like to know how else it affects the fight. Well, if the Vaseline is applied to the face in the areas approved by athletic commissions, then that's about it. And as soon as that first round is over, it's pretty much gone. It's pretty much gone. If there's any amount of grappling in the fight, it's pretty much gone. the Vaseline comes into play. If you're not familiar, before a fight, they put some Vaseline over the eyes and pretty much in this area of the face to help prevent cuts over the eyes. There was a big to-do back in the day when George St. Pierre fought BJ Penn, and between rounds there was this accusation that they had rubbed some Vaseline on George St. Pierre's chest, and so he was able to slip right through the guard of BJ Penn and win the fight. And BJ Penn was quite upset about that and quite vocal. There were a bunch of memes on the internet about it. And after that, the UFC changed their policy that cornermen were no longer allowed to apply or reapply Vaseline to their fighters, but rather the house cut man before the fight only would apply it to the face in these areas. And that was it. So really since then, as far as the UFC is concerned, it's been a non-issue. And that's about it. Next! Our next question comes from Generation X. Did you already ask a question? Oh well, we're going to answer another one. He says, what music do you favor the most? And what intro music did you prefer during your professional fighting days? You know what? I never got to pick my intro music. I never got to pick my walkout music except for my last fight. And in my last fight, I didn't even know what to pick. So my wife actually picked that one out. But yeah, all the fights I walked out to whatever random stuff they put on the radio. I didn't care. I didn't listen to it. I wasn't focusing on it. If you are focusing on your intro music on the way out to a cage fight, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Focus on the fight. Focus on the fact that you are going to use violent action with bad intentions behind it to hurt another human being. And if you're not focused on that, you're in the wrong place doing the wrong activity. What kind of music do I like? Generally speaking, I really like blues. I love the blues. It's probably my favorite genre of all. Next. Our next question comes from our friend Postek, who says, well, two questions. He talks about old school boxing gyms where they don't really have formal classes. You go in, you pay a general membership, you can hit the bags. There are some coaches going about, and if they notice you, they might give you some tips or recruit you to fight or something like that. And then they've got the more new type of gyms where there are scheduled classes. You go to the boxing classes, you learn how to punch and all that good stuff. And he says, what is the advantage/inconvenience of each type of gym? And why are there multiple types of gyms in the first place? Well, there are multiple types of gyms because there are multiple types of people. What are the advantages? Well, if you don't know how to box, going to a boxing class can help you learn how to box. What are the advantages of an open format type of training gym? Well, if you're a type of person who is good at pushing yourself with your own initiative and pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, then that's great. Also, having an open gym to train whenever you want is awesome, because then you can get out there and train more often, and you don't have to wait for the kids' class to finish before you start training at 4 p.m. or whatever it is. Question number 2. He's talking about the old school gyms mentioned earlier, where there's a coach may be walking around, but he's not teaching a class necessarily. Maybe he'll give you some pointers now and then, but he says, doesn't asking a coach for help to improve only for self-satisfaction sound selfish? Wouldn't a coach take this kind of request seriously compared to his actual fighters? Well, I'll tell you what. If you pay that coach for a private lesson, if there is an exchange of money right there, and you pay that coach an appropriate amount of dollars and cents for his time and his attention, then no, there is nothing selfish about that. That's called a business transaction, my friend. So consider that.